Welcome to Cloudscapes, your go-to podcast for all things cloud native. Our aim here is to keep it real and have down-to-earth chats about the cloud to also help you learn something new and be inspired on your cloud journey. All right. Hello. Welcome to the UpCloud podcast. I'm Teppo Suominen. I'm a team coach here at UpCloud. And with me from our side is Jannika Jokinen, our senior account executive. Hello. Welcome to you as well. And especially a warm welcome to our guests who are joining us over internet today. So from Hailey HR, we've got Marincke Behm, a customer success specialist. Hello and welcome. And Renne Tornberg, account executive. So nice of both of you to be able to join us today, and warm welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome on my side as well. And we were thinking to kick this off with a little bit of introduction to Hailey HR. So could you tell us a bit more? What do you actually do and where you're heading as a company?
Yeah, well, I can take that. I get to face that question quite often as a salesperson. But basically, our mission in Hailey is to create one tool for all HR processes, and in a way that the people who are using it actually want to use it. So traditionally, employee data has been quite fragmented across multiple different systems. And that's not very efficient for both the people doing the HR, but neither the employees. And that also poses a risk of data security and GDPR compliance. And that's basically the problem we want to solve in Hailey. We want to help our customers by providing them Hailey's platform where they can manage the whole employee journey all the way from recruitment to the exit discussion in one centralized, data secure and GDPR compliant place.
Yes, and I think the biggest challenge that our customers were facing before joining Hailey is just that they have this data scattered, as Renne said, across many different systems. And we just really want to solve that problem by having everything in one place, which is, of course, cost efficient. But also for the employees and managers, we truly noticed that it really ups the usage of the system because HR in organizations really struggle with actually getting all of the value out of the systems and different IT solutions that they have because they don't have unlimited time to guide managers and employees. And I think everyone can relate to that one. If you don't know how to use a system, you will avoid it. For life. So we really want to solve that by having an easy system and that the employees have this kind of one-stop shop where they can do everything related to, everything from time off to maybe signing new contracts and managers also managing the employee data and so on. Yes.
All right. Really cool. Thank you so much for that introduction.
And maybe we forgot to answer that question, to where we're heading. So where we are at the moment, we are over 100 person at the moment and recruiting all the time new employees. We start to be pretty famous in the Nordics, and I would say that at the moment we are more like in this international expansion phase, growing also a lot in the rest of Europe.
Yes. So Hailey was founded in 2020. So we've soon got 5 years on our neck. And it all started, we have 3 founders where it all started. Now we are, I think, approximately 120 employees as of today. And at least since I joined, we have doubled in size or over that as well. Both in every sense, both when it comes to what the system actually offers and how many customers we have and like the personnel. So everything is growing very rapidly. So it's a very fun journey to be a part of as well. And in regards to the international expansion, me and Renne are both working in an international expansion team for the Finnish market as well. So it's very fun to see the growth over there as well.
Yeah. And it's so cool. It feels like every week there are new faces in the office, and they're like, "Oh, who are you? Nice to meet you." So it's pretty great.
Definitely a familiar feeling here at UpCloud as well.
Yeah.
We are also quite similar size in personnel, actually. a bit over the 100 mark. So a lot of new people joining.
Yeah.
Almost, I feel like every week we have some new face here at the office. It's always quite exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's also quite cool that you get to work with such an innovative company. You're really trying to bring something innovative to the HR field and make it, more fun and efficient for everyone involved working with HR related topics. So that's probably something that, is getting even more and more crucial in the future when there is remote teams and there is, companies who are having multiple different offices in many different countries and people working in different countries as well, being part of the same team and so forth. So
Yeah.
definitely probably quite interesting journey ahead of you.
Yes. Yes, it really is. And it's very motivating as well to work. Well, I work as a customer success specialist, so I work very closely with the actual customers. So it's very motivating to see as well how like groundbreaking these things can be for them, especially the focus that we have on like user experience and the like employee and manager experience of the system. Because I would say maybe the biggest difference that we see, especially on the Finnish market, is that the traditional HR systems are focused on, well, HR, of course, because that's the main focus and it's truly super important. And we want to focus on the HR core a lot as well. But I think we really found something in including and really focusing on the employee experience in the same system as well, because that's kind of the full circle of what HR managers try to do. They need to administrate like a huge amount of data, they need to be compliant with so many regulations. But they also need to get everyone on board. And that's kind of where the systems and the people have not really been speaking the same language. So that's kind of the gap that we've noticed it's really important to fill. So it's really fun to see the customers on that journey as well and like be a part of how they introduce the system into their organization. So we host these kind of intros for managers, for employees to just make sure that they actually use the system, because then they will truly see the value of how much time it can save and how efficient it can be to have it all in one place.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you also mentioned one key thing there, compliance and data security. And that's also something that we here at UpCloud are really at the core for helping businesses to be compliant and having their data secured. And as a European company, we can help, especially other European companies like Hailey HR, to offer that kind of competitive advantage for then your end customers, so they can be, trusting that the data is safe. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more about uh, the journey. How did we end up working together, and what challenges do you see we can then tackle together when we have partnered up?
Yeah. So when I joined Haley approximately 1.5 years ago, when we started the Finnish expansion, at that point, Haley and UpCloud were already working together and have been doing since the start. But it's really something that's very central to our business, both in how we build the system and also how we market and sell it. So I think it was approximately my second or third day into onboarding when we have like kind of a GDPR walkthrough, since that is maybe the most central regulations for us working with HR data. So UpCloud was a name that came up very early because it's really important for us both internally in how we work with the system, but also with our customers to kind of practice what we preach. Because we usually, when we market the system as well, as Renne probably can agree with as well, we have a few like base pillars that we talk about in why we founded Haley or why Haley was founded. And it's the user experience that we already talked about, to having everything in one place, so the one-stop shop, but also data security and GDPR compliance. So to have a system that kind of automates GDPR retention of personnel data. So we have kind of automation or automatic deletion of data when an employee leaves, for example. So we have built a lot of functionality to kind of support our customers in being GDPR compliant. So of course, in that, it's very important for us to kind of take it all the way. So we don't see it as a possibility to have a system that deletes data according to GDPR, but then our servers are in the US. That's not something that would work for our business model. So it was quite obvious that we needed to have an European provider and that the data centers are in European ownership. So this is something that we talk about with all our customers, basically, that we are collaborating with UpCloud. We talk about it in our internal onboardings. We've talked about it in webinars. It's really a big selling point for us to be able to not only be compliant today, but also future-proof when it comes to GDPR and like the legal landscape regarding data storage in the US and all of the regulations there. I'm not going to go into the legal talk of it because that's not my expertise. But it really is a really important collaboration, and we're super happy to have found a partner in that has the same view as us when it comes to the data security and the European cloud.
Definitely. And it's always very interesting to look at data security from the European perspective, because a lot of times when we're speaking of the cloud and the data security aspects of it, the conversation becomes US centric, let's say, because that is, of course, the largest market. But they view the whole conversation from such a different perspective. It's about like having your private data and being able to separate it. It's not really about being compliant or being able to provide for your customers or for the people who utilize the data, the ability to remove it and be sure that it remains secure and compliant at all times, which is, of course, in the European market, on the other hand, a very important and specific thing to have. And it's really interesting to see how you guys are able to work and utilize up on top of UpCloud to make that happen for your customers.
Yeah. And I think for me, it sounds like you're able to gain trust from your end customers with offering them the safety that, hey, we are partner you up with the European cloud provider called UpCloud, and you can be sure that the way we handle your data as well, like we have been taking everything under control, and your data is safe with us, because HR related data is usually quite sensitive. There is a lot of different type of sensitive data, so of course people might feel a bit scared that, hey, my data is in this platform, like, is it really safe? Yeah, building trust with your customers with
Ye-
European
Yeah,
angle to the
I think it's
market.
hard to add anything on top of what Marincke already told you. But from my perspective, as a salesperson, I get to see it every day with my customers. And yes, I can fully agree that it's definitely very important, the compliance for them. And with this European cloud provider, we can bring more transparency and create more trust. So definitely, I would say that it's a competitive edge for us, and also very good thing for our customers.
Definitely. And it's also a field that's maybe hard to navigate in. As an HR person, maybe it's not your field of expertise. It's something you need to follow, but the kind of details of it can be difficult to know what data to remove when, and how do you actually make sure that the data is removed in your organization. So that's where we want to come in as a system, because we think it's quite impossible as a HR manager or just a general manager of a company to make sure that every manager, every employee is deleting the data they have on their computers. So I don't know if anyone else has an idea, but I don't know how you would in practice actually make sure that that is deleted. So then we kind of want to combine that we actually have the data in Europe, which is the compliance part of it mostly, and then also the part where the system actually works in favor of the customer to automatically delete the data that they can no longer store, but to make sure that they can have all of the data securely as well during the employment. Because as you mentioned, Jannica, it is HR data is very sensitive. It's a lot of salaries, it's sick leaves, it's certificates. So we really want to make sure that the employees are like done right by as well when it comes to how that data is handled. So that's something that we see our customers and prospects take very seriously. So we are happy to be able to provide that solution as well.
For sure. And it's actually an interesting link again, like looking at our part of the equation and our partnership as a cloud provider for you guys and for everyone else as well. Because at UpCloud, of course, like when someone wants to delete their data, that when they want their servers and storage is gone, we have to be able to provide that, or there is no trust in having your services on top of that. But on the other like flip side of that, when you bring your things into a cloud provider, you need to also be sure that they are safe and secure, because you don't want your data to just be gone one day unless you want it deleted. So it is a balance of keeping everything safe and secure, but also making sure that you are able to remove it when it is needed to be removed. So it's a bit of a combination of those two.
Yes, yes. And that's actually a line that I use with my customers, and especially like when introducing to managers quite often. Because if you go into an organization and speak to the regular daily managers about their work, GDPR is not something they think about.
No,
Very
not at
rarely.
all.
Once a year, maybe when they get the email, it's time to cleanse, if they get that. I'm not sure.
Or do the yearly training is probably also
Yeah.
classic.
Yes. So kind of what I also like to use there to just get them to kind of understand it without going in too deep in the GDPR ditch so that it's not interesting anymore is like kind of the same line as you had there, Teppo, with
Mm.
just explaining the basically what Hailey does for you is making sure that you have all the data that you need, but also making sure that when it needs to be deleted, it is deleted automatically at the right time, and that when it is still in the system, anyone who has the need can access it, but that you don't really need to basically think about it, that the
Exactly, yeah.
data retention is just done seamlessly, which often makes them happy as well, even if it's only a headache they have once a year when they get the reminder. It's fun to not have to get that one either.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, and it's really good to be able to just provide that security and trust that, hey, like if my stuff is here, it will just work. I don't need to worry about it.
Exactly. And
Exactly.
I think also it's like pretty of course obvious that you really focus on the European market, as you said as well, that it's like where you can see the competitive advantage for you. So it would be quite interesting to understand that what made you focus on the European market in the first place, and if there is any insights you could share to understand the landscape a bit better from that perspective.
Yeah, a big question.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it all starts from the regulation, as we have already talked a lot about. But basically, for any business operations, the regulations give the framework, right? So we have this the GDPR that we've been talking quite a lot. I'm not gonna go more in the detail to that. But then that's not the only one. We also have the CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, if I'm
Yeah.
correct
Yes.
me if I'm wrong. Then we have the Pay Transparency Directive, and on top of that, we also have every country have their own single, own like national legislation and labor laws. So those pretty much give the framework for operating in Europe, and I think. Yeah, like there's quite a lot of compliance demands that need to be met. So yeah,
Yeah.
can you maybe
Yeah.
add something on top of that?
I think if we go way back to like before Hailey was founded, also something that we learned in the beginning of our onboarding, but our three founders, they actually founded another company before called Bravura, which is a recruitment and staffing company.
Mm.
And they were looking for new HR software for that company because they were working with, well, like 4, 5, 6, 7 different softwares just to handle the personnel. So they wanted to have one system for as much as possible. Couldn't find that, but they also wanted to have something that feels local, that is like in accordance with regulations, but also to have local support and so on. So when Hailey started out, they focused mostly on the Swedish market, since we are a Swedish company. And Sweden, as a part of the EU and in Europe, of course, legislation such as GDPR was relevant from the start. Um, and that gives us a huge competitive advantage as well, as GDPR came into play, I think it was 2018. And we started building Hailey 2020. So we could kind of build it according to that instead of having to adapt to it as many
Right.
other systems did. So that was a good place for us to start. But also, like in our growth journey, I think we've realized, and the management and everyone at Hailey has realized, that basically the big pictures come from the European Union and the legislations there. So the GDPR, the CSRD, the Pay Transparency Directive is very relevant and hot topic right now for the HR community. So I think that's a big part of why we see the growth potential in Europe. And also, since we are now expanding to different markets, mostly in the Nordics, but also, for example, Germany and so on. Also, the local feeling of the system we see is very important. So when we work for the Finnish markets, of course, the Finnish team, we sit here in Stockholm, but we all speak Finnish to the customers. We have a Danish customer success representative in Norway and Germany and so on. So I think the combination of like the local feel, but kind of the more broader picture of regulations and compliance for the whole European market has been a key for us. So I think that's because if we go outside of Europe, then the legislation can look so different. Though in a field as HR, which is pretty regulated in how you can store data and where and why and so on, it's just been a natural choice for us to focus on Europe.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense in a way as well, that regulations and legislations are something that they're not opinions. So companies need to
Yes.
comply and follow those kind of regulations. So then you can actually be there to help companies to actually, as you said before, ease that headache. So then they don't have to have that headache every year when they're like handling these kind of personal data related topics like with GDPR and so forth. So that definitely makes sense.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
much of a help have you seen, maybe was expanding on this a bit, from the fact that you are a European company, as you said, started from Sweden, now broadening the scope into the rest of Europe, uh, in helping the companies that are your customers in easing the pain of their issues, because you also, of course, have to be compliant just in the same way as everybody else in the business. So basically, you have the same issues as your customers. Does that help you, or have you found that that is kind of a conversation opener when going into new markets or new fields, or do you see that as a gain?
Yes, so I think, yeah, especially I've been working mostly with customers in the Nordics overall, so in Finland, Sweden, and Norway as well. And there, it's pretty similar, but then there are always the nuances of the local legislation. So
Yeah.
we always, when we expand into a new market, we know that we have a good framework to kind of begin with. But since we're still developing the system very rapidly, we are also aware of that we're going to get requirements to develop something that's in accordance to a certain local law. I would say our biggest Hailey headache internally is Finland's way of handling yearly vacation on Saturdays. So there are these kind of nuances that sound like hubris to any other country, but that they have locally. But since the European since a lot of the legislation come from the EU and to begin with, and then it's adapted to different legislation, it's quite similar, but there are always these details that you really need to get into and there our sales team does a big work as well when expanding to new markets to really truly understand, okay, what do we need to develop in order to kind of break through on this market. So I think you have a lot of those discussions as well, Renne.
Yeah, that's correct. And I guess whenever we enter a new market, there is a lot of this, let's say, market research phase in the beginning, because there we cannot expect that we already know all the different details and the different demands. So, but that's a great thing in Hailey, because we are very we as a software company, we work so rapidly that when there comes some demand, it's not years when the new feature or function will be in the system. So we work in 3-week sprints, and we can actually implement new feature functions pretty quickly.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely. And I think right now when we are like growing in different markets as well, we have really noticed that our biggest potential is in the customers who are international companies within Europe. So because we want to have kind of the big picture legislation, regulation, compliance part of it. So we want to be GDPR compliant. We want to have possibility to work in accordance with the Pay Transparency Directive. We want to be able to support in reporting for CSRD, for example, as those we mentioned. So we're not going to go in and build something that's really, really close to a specific country's legislation, but we want to keep the solution as flexible as possible. So we give you kind of a tool to do this with, And then with the local requirements that you as a company have, you can adapt that to that certain need, which means that they can use the same system for reporting for, let's say, pay transparency in Sweden, Finland, Germany, and so on, because we have such a flexible solution that they can have different solutions for different countries within the same system. So I think that's really unique with Hailey as well, that we've seen now that we have, larger and larger companies as customers, of course, as we grow. And where we stand out is really in the international cases where they want to be able to handle the personnel in one system, even if they are in different places geographically and therefore have different legislations that are guiding their operations as well.
Yeah. And I think, at least to my eyes, it seems that this is something that companies have been looking for, as especially if looking at your growth numbers. Like, it's been insane, the pace you've been growing, and in terms of
Yeah.
revenue and new customers, and then of course also the needing to hire more people to support the growth. So definitely something that it's been missing in the market, and now you're able to help companies to actually solve these kind of needs with your flexible platform. So I think it's been also pretty cool to follow from this
Yeah.
partnership side of perspective. So pretty cool, I must say.
Definitely. And like just from the cloud perspective, again, like, it's of course part of the equation has to be that your software is always available, like regardless of where you are, you can always just get it over the internet, like from your local browser, instead of having to log into your internal systems. And like when you look at the old systems, which are quite often internal and run on a server in some cellar somewhere, that just makes it so much harder to be able to access. And I think that probably is something also that you are seeing when you're going to the customer, like, hey, we can offer you this solution and aid to you and help you, especially the international customers, to reach all of their managers and employees in one single, easy to use solution.
Yeah, and also that's
Definitely.
also something that we hear and see, especially now with you guys as well, that once you're growing and expanding into new markets and new customers, you need a cloud partner that is able to scale up with you. So it's been really great to see this type of success, and looking forward to seeing where it will go in the next years. And if thinking about that topic, I think it would be quite. I'm at least curious to hear, like, what kind of trends you are seeing currently in the European market. If thinking about a European business operating in the European market, that what should they be focusing on in the next coming years, in your perspective?
But if we look at from my perspective, more in if we're looking only HR tech and like basically what Hailey has and what we can see are the drivers for them, because we have a lot of customers that are getting their first like HR core system, and a lot of customers who are also switching up from another system they used previously because they crave a more modern solution or a more like broad one instead of many focused ones. So of course, just like digitalization of HR is the levels are very different. Some companies are like highly digitized, and depends of course on the operations as well. But depending on what kind of companies you are looking at, it can really depend. Some may have everything in folders printed out, all of the employment agreements, and some have some kind of other software where they want to move from. So basically, the digitalization is still something that's highly relevant to many companies when it comes to HR. And then maybe for us, what we want to add in the system as well to be kind of with the trends and remain like a modern company as well is of course AI and automation and everything that comes with it. So we've if we look at Hailey, we have added quite some AI there as well, and we're building it continuously. But there as well, we are very conscious of what we are doing as well. So we really want to make sure that it keeps the data secure still and it's not going to third-party providers and so on. So currently, what we have in Hailey is that you can use AI to generate content such as different templates, contract templates, feedback templates, surveys, and so on. So it's not connected to the personal data, but it's more connected to kind of easing the admin work of an HR manager who maybe needs to send out a new yearly employee survey and wants to switch up the questions a bit to be able to generate that directly in Hailey as well.
And yeah, maybe what I didn't get it before, but like what I see in my work is that more and more small companies are implementing these kind of modern HR solutions as Hailey. And well, I can't say how it was before, but I believe that it was maybe earlier something that only like big corporations and bigger companies did. And that could be also that those solutions were not very smaller company friendly. They were basically built for large enterprises, and maybe also their price was that high that smaller companies couldn't implement those systems. But we have a lot of different sizes of companies. Smallest are like 10 people. The largest are thousands of employees. But that's something that I see definitely. The smaller and smaller companies are interested in this aspect, putting resources to that, and yeah, that's maybe like what led to that. I guess one thing is the legislative like environment that there has been coming more and more compliance demands. And I mean, we are not actually like all those acts that we went through earlier, like the GDPR, CSRD, pay transparency, those are not even all implemented in every country's legislation yet. So we are not. This is how to say it. We are all in the beginning when it comes to the different compliance demands for our customers.
All right.
Yeah. And I think that also behind, if we look at like me implementing the system with customers, we always have this kickoff meeting where we kind of start the project. And at that point, I always like to go through what drove them to, well, firstly, get an HR system, but also what drove them to choose Hailey, to kind of understand where they are coming from, to know what to focus on in the project as well, because it can really vary a lot from people who just need somewhere to put their data, and some who want to really refine onboarding. They want to refine the hiring process and the employee experience. So I think something that's really highlighting now is the want of the smaller companies as well to focus on the employee experience and for them to have like easy access. And it all comes back to employer branding in the end, like how the employees are experiencing the company as an employer. So there, I think they usually mention that as well, that they chose Hailey because of how it looks and how it looks to the employees. And there we come back a bit to what I said about like some HR systems are focused on helping the HR manager and not so much on the other ones. So there, we really, when we speak within customer success at least, and I know in some product meetings as well, we talk a lot about like personas using Hailey. So we have personas that's of course HR. We have the persona that is the employee. We have managers, and we can also have payroll, IT as personas. So when we are planning features, when we're implementing them, and when we are demoing features as well, we really focus on, okay, which persona is this built for? So who will this be good for, and what should we focus on? So if the persona is employee, we want it to be we want it to look good. We want it to be super easy, super accessible, super simple. No knowledge needed, just 2 clicks away. We want them to be able to do their tasks. So I think that point as well, to focus on all of the personas, is something that's going to become more and more trendy as well.
Maybe if I would try to summarize all of this
Yes.
into like one structured
Good luck with
sentence,
that.
what it sounds like, at least to me, is ease of use and just simplicity and making it easier for the end user and the customer and all aspects of the customer, as you, Marincke, pretty well put there. Like you need to focus on all the personas there, just to make it so easy, as easy as possible for them to use the service and actually just have an easier time in their day-to-day work through using Hailey HR.
You summarize it very well, and I think something that every one of us as a customers, we are very used to create user experiences in our system that we use in our free time, right? Those big social media platforms or the places where we look videos from and etc. But then when it comes to the system that we are working with, have quite traditionally been very rigid and not user friendly at all. And that's something that we want to, let's say, revolutionize. We want to make the situation better for our customers.
Where were we? Key trends and summarizing the ease of use and just the usability aspect of it. And this is something that I think we also see a lot when dealing with and working with, and especially finding new customers, but also working with old customers and partners like you guys, is that we need to be able to answer the need of the customer as easily as possible. Because at the end of the day, what it is about is solving the customer problem in a way that the customer can understand and appreciate. Because that's where the actual value comes from when you look at it from like the customer perspective. And I think you guys have cracked that egg beautifully.
Yes, definitely. I agree. I agree 100%. And I think our our founders and management have done such a good job there in kind of including the interests of all stakeholders when it comes to an HR system. So maybe HR managers are not that concerned about where their data is stored before they get more into the legislation, but IT and the legal department, that's where it's of high relevance. And these are always stakeholders, especially if we go into bigger companies when making these kind of decisions on who should we partner up with for handling our HR data. So I think that's really a big step in the right direction for us as well to kind of from the beginning have noticed which are the important stakeholders, what is the most important parts in when it comes to an HR system. Because from the employee perspective, it's that it looks good and works as well as Spotify, for example. But then if we go all the way back to back office, legal, and so on, it will be very different on the demands there. So you can really see that it's those aspects, data storage and European providers are super important in our success, especially for getting customers in, but also to keep them satisfied with the automatic retention periods and so on to kind of take all of the extra administration that comes with compliance and make it, well, as you mentioned as well, simplicity. That's actually, I think, Hailey's main slogan is HR simplicity is what we want to reach and what we want to maintain. So that's really, all the words you need to explain what we are doing. HR simplicity for all employees. So managers, HR, legal, IT employees. And that's it, basically, in a nutshell.
Perfect. All right. So if we gather together a bit of what we covered here throughout this half an hour, you guys are targeting the European cloud, and you've been partnering up with us here at UpCloud to help you be compliant and be able to fit and meet the needs of the European customer base and be able to answer those regulatory and legality questions that come up and that are needed from your customers to have the trust and be able to use the HR system in a way that they feel that they are comfortable with. And you are, of course, for this reason, targeting especially Europe to not have to go beyond the scope and view of where you've started from, which is Europe and Sweden, but that is something that you can then broaden and build into the whole of the European marketplace and structure something that helps everybody in that scope. And at the end of the day, it comes down to you guys building an everyday expanding, everyday evolving, better product that is simple, easy to use, and at the same time compliant, trustworthy, and usable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put it very, very well. So hard to add anything to that, but definitely, and it's been a really nice journey as well. And we see, as you mentioned as well, it is working for us currently. We're growing very rapidly, and it's really fun to be a part of that. as well, and see how much our customers appreciate how seriously we take these kind of demands on data storage and GDPR compliance and so on. So it's really a big selling point for us, both in customer acquisition but also retention when it comes to keeping them happy as well.
Yeah, and I think overall Europe is pretty strong market for any SaaS company. We're quite developed continent. Many country and company are making good progress in terms of digitalization. And overall, I would say that the employee experience, employee rights have commonly been valued pretty greatly in most of the European countries.
For sure. A really good point to raise as well, that the European market is in a lot of places ahead of the rest of the world in digitalization already, and it's something that we can definitely leverage and utilize, because it's something that there is a need for, the, as you said, the SaaS services already. So we can help by offering something into that market that is already asked for.
Yeah. And I think it's also quite cool to see that another European companies are partnering up together like we've been doing to then actually offer like great services to end customers to then, ease their business processes and so forth. So creating success together and getting Europe bigger from that perspective. So I think that's pretty cool
Exactly.
as
Yeah,
well.
for sure.
Definitely, yes.
All right. Wrapping up here, thank you so much, Marincke and Renne, for joining us today to have a bit of a chat about how you guys at Hailey HR have been doing and how you guys are moving forward into the future. And we here at UpCloud are really happy to be part of your journey and are looking forward to see you guys grow and also grow with you and help you in your journey forward. But thank you so much for joining us and having this chat with us today.
Thank you very much, and I think I can speak on behalf of both of us. It was our pleasure to be here today.
Yes, thanks for having us. And I'm also looking very much forward to, continuing a great partnership and growing together on the European market. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. And thank you, everybody, for listening in. And I hope you've learned something a bit from the European cloud market and the European market in general, and how we can be compliant in it. And also why you should maybe grab a Hailey HR to have an easier time with the HR needs. Until next time, I'm Teppo. With me here was Jannika, and thank you so much for listening in.